Elizabeth at A Literary Princess. If you are new here, welcome. I have a PhD in English literature with a focus on Victorian women novelists, and as you might expect, I love to read. Today I have another Victober video for you, and in this I will be reviewing The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy from 1878. This will be a spoiler-free review, and I am just going to talk a bit about the characters and some themes that I noticed and read you some quotes from this beautifully written book. Let's jump in. So, The Return of the Native was first serialized from January to December of 1878 in Belgravia magazine, which was founded by John Maxwell and edited by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, who was John Maxwell's lover and eventually wife. So, what are we following here? We are following the usual Hardy love shape. Not a love triangle, a love shape. There are multiple people involved in this. And it is all taking place on Egdon Heath, which itself is its own character. And with Egdon Heath, it's so interesting because Hardy uses it as this kind of metaphor for humanity, but we also have it very much in conflict with humanity. So right at the beginning of the book, he writes, "It was at present a place perfectly accordant with man's nature, neither ghastly, hateful, nor ugly, neither commonplace, unmeaning, nor tame, but, like man, slighted and enduring, and withal singularly colossal and mysterious in its swarthy monotony." I can talk. As with some persons who have long lived apart, solitude seemed to look out of its countenance. It had a lonely face, suggesting tragical possibilities. He then continues, "Here at last were intelligible facts regarding landscape, far-reaching proofs productive of genuine satisfaction. The untamable Ishmaelitish thing that Egdon now was, it always had been. Civilization was its enemy. Ever since the beginning of vegetation, its soil had worn the same antique brown dress and the natural and invariable garment of the formation. In its venerable one coat lay a certain vein of satire on human vanity and clothes. A person on a heath in a raiment of modern cut and colors wears more or less an anomalous look. We seem to want the oldest and simplest human clothing, where the clothing of the earth is so primitive." So interesting. It is perfectly accordant with humanity, but it is also civilization's enemy. Which, of course, we think of humanity and civilization and they go together, but here it's more, no, humanity is something wild and untamable, not built up in civilization. And this is a thing we see repeatedly played out within the characters. I do want to read one more passage about the heath because I think this is a gorgeous passage. Also right here at the very beginning. "To light a fire is the instinctive and resistant act of man when, at the winter ingress, the curfew is sounded throughout nature. It indicates a spontaneous Promethean rebelliousness against the flat, that this recurrent season shall bring foul times, cold darkness, misery, and death. Black chaos comes, and the fettered gods of the earth say, 'Let there be light.'" So the book begins on Guy Fawkes Night, which people light bonfires to celebrate the fact that Guy Fawkes did not blow up Parliament. Okay. But again, we see humanity kind of in, like, with this tension between nature. Nature says, okay, it's going to be dark and cold, and humanity says, no, let there be light, and lights a fire. So it's just this very interesting theme that is, again, played out between the characters, particularly Eustacia Vi and Clem Yeobright. So, who are our players in this love shape? We've got Eustacia. She is a young woman who lives kind of apart. She was raised in town and has gone to live with her grandfather after the death of her family, and she hates Egdon Heath. She wants out of here. She loves civilization. She wants to go to parties and be in the city and have all these nice things, and instead she is in this desolate, vast expanse of nature. We then have Clem Yeobright. He has recently returned to Egdon Heath after living in Paris, where he was running a jewelry business. Now, Clem has decided he wants to leave the city and return to Egdon Heath and stay there and be more with nature. He wants to reject civilization and be there. These two do eventually get married. We'll talk about that in a minute. We then have Damon Wildeve. He is the innkeeper, and he has carried on an affair with Eustacia, but is also engaged to Clem's cousin, Thomasin Yeobright, who is a very nice young woman and is kind of the exact opposite of Eustacia. We then also have Diggory Venn. He is a Reddleman. I'll let you look that up. I don't want to explain that. But Reddle, it's very red, and it causes his skin to be red because he is constantly traveling around and selling it. Now, he has actually come down a bit in class by taking that job. He was, I can't remember if a farmer's son or a dairyman's son, but he was like slightly above that. Not quite to where the Yeobrights are, or Eustacia is, but above being a Reddleman. And he is in love with Thomasin. So we have this shape. And then we also have Clem's mother and Thomasin's aunt, Mrs. Yeobright, who is this incredibly stubborn woman, set in her ways, and she wants people to do what she wants them to do. And when they don't do it, she gets mad. So in addition to this whole theme with nature, we also are looking at love, marriage, and compatibility. And what happens when people who should not get married anyway? And the answer is tragedy, because it's a Thomas Hardy novel. That's not even a spoiler. That he's just depressing. So, when we first meet Eustacia, we are told, to be loved to madness, such was her great desire. Love was to her the one cordial which could drive away the eating loneliness of her days, and she seemed to long for the abstraction called passionate love more than for any particular love. Fidelity in love for fidelity's sake had less attraction for her than for most women. Fidelity, because of love's grip, had much. A blaze of love and extinction was better than a lantern glimmer of the same which should last long years. She's this very passionate person, and she really doesn't conform to society's expectations. So fidelity for fidelity's sake, she's like, no. Even though that is very much what's expected of a Victorian woman. She is straining against the constraints of Victorian womanhood. And she is stuck in this place that she hates and she wants to get out. And she sees love and marriage as her way to get out of them. So when she meets Clem, she had undoubtedly begun to love him. She loved him partly because he was exceptional in this scene, partly because she had from the first instinctively determined to love him, chiefly because she was in desperate need of loving somebody. Believing that she must love him in spite of herself, she had been influenced after the fashion of the second Lord Lyttelton and other persons who have dreamed that they were to die on a certain day, and by stress of morbid imagination have actually brought about that event. So she learns about Clem, who has come home from Paris, and she sees him as her way out. And so she is determined. She's like, I'm gonna love him. Naturally, how do you think that's gonna work out? The two of them have no business being married. They are exact opposites, and we see that through their feelings about Egdon Heath. Take all the varying hates felt by Eustacia Vi towards the Heath and translate them into loves, and you have the heart of Clem. Incompatible. Incompatible. Tells her at one point, you are ambitious, Eustacia. No, not exactly ambitious, luxurious. I ought to be of the same vein to make you happy, I suppose, and yet, far from that, I could live and die in a hermitage here with proper work to do. Again, she is of this civilization, he is of Egdon Heath. And Eustacia says at one point, but do I desire unreasonably much in wanting what is called life, music, poetry, passion, war, and all the beating and pulsing that is going on in the great arteries of the world? That was the shape of my youthful dream, but I did not get it. Yet I thought I saw the way to it in my Clem. Somebody says to her, and you only married him on that account? There you mistake me. I married him because I loved him, but I won't say that I didn't love him, partly because I thought I saw a promise of that life in him. She believes that Clem is going to go back to Paris. That's not what he wants. Even once he tells her that, she thinks she can make him go back. So, love, marriage, and compatibility. We also have Damon and Thomason and Diggory and that whole thing. And again, Damon is torn between Thomason, who he has married, and Eustacia, who he is actually in love with. Diggory is in love with Thomason, but can't do anything about it because she's married, and anyway, they're not of the same class. Class is also a big theme in this book. I really didn't get many quotes about it, but it is a big theme. So, those are some themes and some passages. What did I think of it? I loved this. I absolutely loved this. It is my favorite Hardy book that I've read so far, and I've read, I think I've read, this is my 5th one by him. And I love the setting of Egdon Heath. It very much brings to mind the moors of Wuthering Heights for me. And honestly, Eustacia could easily seem right at home at Wuthering Heights. That is the type of personality she has. She is not always the most likable, but I enjoyed her very much as a character. I would highly recommend this. I don't know if it's the best place to start with Hardy. It's not a bad place to start with Hardy. It's better than starting with Jude the Obscure. But yeah, it gives you a really great idea of his nature writing, of some of the more controversial things he is looking at in regards to marriage and love, and it prepares you for the utter misery of some of his later works. So yeah, you know what, this would be a good place to start. I would say this or Far from the Madding Crowd, out of the ones I've read, is probably the best place to start with Hardy. But yeah, that's my just kind of quick review, although I don't know how quick it was really, but that's kind of what I got out of The Return of the Native. Really enjoyed it, 5 stars, highly, highly recommend it. Let me know down in the comments, have you read The Return of the Native? What did you think of it? Are you thinking that you might like to pick it up sometime in the future? If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more of my bookish content. It was freaking great chatting with you, and I will see you soon for another Victober video. Bye!